Take a look at what you're wearing right now. There's a good chance you're wearing a t-shirt. It's one of the simplest pieces of clothing ever made. No buttons. No collar. No complicated design. Just a piece of fabric sewn into the shape of a T. But here's the strange part. The t-shirt wasn't created as fashion. It wasn't designed for comfort. And it certainly wasn't meant to become one of the most recognizable garments in history. In fact, the first people who wore t-shirts were never supposed to let anyone see them. So how did an invisible piece of underwear become a global fashion icon worn by billions of people? The answer involves sailors, soldiers, Hollywood rebels, rock stars, and one simple design that changed clothing forever. Let's uncover the unexpected origin of the t-shirt. Today, the t-shirt is everywhere. People wear it to work, to the gym, while traveling, sleeping, and even to formal events under tailored jackets. Luxury fashion houses sell designer t-shirts for hundreds, or even thousands, of dollars. Yet its origins couldn't have been more humble. It started as something people were never meant to show in public. So when did that change? And who decided underwear could become everyday clothing? To answer that, we need to go back to a time before the t-shirt even existed. For centuries, people didn't wear t-shirts. Instead, they wore long linen undergarments called union suits or one-piece underclothes. These garments covered much of the body and were worn beneath outer clothing to absorb sweat and protect expensive garments from dirt and body oils. The problem? They were hot, heavy, difficult to wash, and not exactly comfortable. As industrialization accelerated during the 19th century, workers, laborers, and military personnel needed clothing that allowed greater freedom of movement. The search for something simpler had quietly begun. Around the late 19th and early 20th centuries, manufacturers began separating the traditional one-piece undergarment into two pieces. A simple cotton undershirt for the upper body, and separate underwear for the lower body. This short-sleeved cotton undershirt was lightweight, breathable, inexpensive, and much easier to clean. Its shape naturally resembled the letter T, although people didn't actually call it a t-shirt. Yet, the basic design had arrived. At first, it remained hidden beneath uniforms and work clothes. One group no one imagined it would ever become outerwear. The U.S. Navy. In the early 1900s, sailors were issued lightweight white cotton undershirts as part of their uniforms. Working aboard ships in hot engine rooms demanded clothing that stayed cool and absorbed sweat. Many sailors began wearing only the undershirt while performing physically demanding tasks below deck. It wasn't considered fashionable. It was simply practical. Military uniforms often influenced civilian fashion over time. The t-shirt was about to follow that pattern. During the First and especially the Second World War, millions of soldiers became familiar with the cotton undershirt. It was comfortable, easy to wash, easy to replace. After returning home, many veterans continued wearing these shirts casually around the house or while working outdoors. Something interesting happened. People became accustomed to seeing the shirt without another layer covering it. Little by little, underwear was becoming acceptable everyday clothing. But the biggest transformation hadn't happened yet. Hollywood was about to redefine the t-shirt forever. In 1951, actor Marlon Brando appeared in a streetcar named Desire wearing nothing more than a fitted white t-shirt and jeans. Suddenly, the plain cotton undershirt looked confident, masculine, and rebellious. A few years later, James Dean reinforced that image in Rebel Without a Cause. Teenagers wanted to dress like the movie stars they admired. Sales of plain white t-shirts surged. For the first time, people weren't wearing t-shirts because they had to. They wore them because they wanted to. Hollywood had transformed a basic undergarment into a fashion statement. By the 1960s and 1970s, improvements in screen printing technology changed the t-shirt once again. Now, it wasn't just clothing. It became a canvas. Bands printed their logos. Political movements shared messages. Companies advertised products. Artists created wearable designs. Sports teams promoted their identities. Tourists brought home souvenir shirts. A simple cotton garment had become one of the world's most powerful communication tools. Every graphic t-shirt told a story before the wearer even spoke. Today, the t-shirt exists in almost every imaginable form. Luxury designers reinterpret it on runways. Athletes wear high-performance versions made from advanced fabrics. Sustainable brands create organic cotton and recycled fiber t-shirts. Oversized, slim fit, vintage, graphic, minimalist. Almost every wardrobe on Earth contains at least one. What began as hidden underwear has become perhaps the most democratic garment ever created. It crosses age, gender, culture, profession, and income. Very few pieces of clothing can make that claim. So, who invented the t-shirt? The answer isn't one person. It evolved gradually. From uncomfortable one-piece undergarments, to military uniforms, to veterans' casual clothing, to Hollywood rebellion, to the everyday essential we know today. Its story reminds us that fashion doesn't always begin on a runway. Sometimes it starts in factories, on ships, in military barracks, or hidden beneath another layer of clothing. The next time you pull on a simple t-shirt, remember, you're wearing a garment shaped by more than a century of innovation, war, culture, and popular media. Not bad for something that was never supposed to be seen. If you enjoyed discovering the hidden history behind one of the world's most iconic garments, subscribe for more fashion history stories where ordinary clothes reveal extraordinary origins. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.